Placid, New York, and the legendary Mount Van Hoevenberg, site of the 1932 and 1980 Olympic Winter Games. A frosty day here in upstate New York for the two-man bobsled run number 1. Hi, everybody. I'm Nick Gismondi alongside bobsledding legend himself, John Morgan, and an exciting day of racing as we'll get a chance to see not only the men today, but the women will take a couple cracks at this track also.
This beautiful aerial shot by Terry Howland, the coach, former U.S. Skeleton rider, now coaching the New Zealand team. Brought up a nice little heli gadget. Here's our track. Well, track built for the 2000 winter Goodwill Games, first and only and ever staged event here in Lake Placid. And you know, it's a long track, good vertical drop up here at the top. I mean, the Malbardas and Driskins from Latvia have the start record, but you got to be settled around this first curve. And here in curve 2, you think it's easy? This is where the Koreans tipped over yesterday, went all the way to the bottom, upside down. It slight came back up on its runners halfway down, but now into Whiteface, named after one of the legendary corners on the old track. Now this is a part of the track they call the Devil's Highway for one reason. It is a challenge. Now into this big shady slingshot effect here on the bottom part of the track into three-corner combination they call the Labyrinth. Every track's got to have one. Into Benham's Bend, little Lake Placid nostalgia. Stan Benham won 2 gold medals at the 52 Olympic Games as a resident of Lake Placid in the sport of bobsledding. Into the heart, a lot of pressure. 18-19 to the finish. And you got to go uphill here. Skeleton that ends right here. Bobsledding goes around this corner, and the finish line's right there. So big challenge on the bottom part of this track, and it's an old track record.
20 turns for the bobsleds, a 9.8% grade. They will hit a max G-force of 5.1 and can reach speeds of about 130 kilometers an hour. Take a look at the World Cup standings as they are right now. Steve Hulcom, who has been absolutely on fire, is atop. Hefty is in that second spot, and Nick Cunningham from the U.S. sitting in third. As you look up and down this list, John, there haven't been too many surprises so far this season. Do you see anything changing here today in Placid?
I think the Russians and the Germans are still pacing themselves. They're going to wait till they get back to Europe to start to peak. The Americans have come out of the box on fire. They want to win everything in sight, and they have in all disciplines. The United States having its most successful 3 World Cups in a row ever in the history of the sport. And, you know, I think it'll continue today. Thank God the weather's a little bit. It's cold, but at least it's not blowing snow.
It is cold. There was a 30% chance of snow today, starting at around 3 p.m. They're supposed to get 5 to 8 inches overnight. It is a covered track here in Lake Placid. That should not be much of a factor for today. We'll have to see if that does anything for tomorrow as you get a look at the start list for run number 1. Now notice that Steve Hulcom and Vogt will be starting in that 5th position. Butner and Berkeley, the other Americans, starting in that 6th spot, so keep an eye out for them. Holcomb has already picked himself up a gold here in Placid, that coming just the other day. A nice gold medal, and that one was with Steve Langton, his partner. So a terrific opportunity here for the Americans to continue to rack up gold. They have really been the story here in Placid.
Placid, Park City, Calgary. I mean, Holcomb has won now over the 2011-12 season when he won the World Championship 2-man title. He won 3 straight events in North America last year. He's won 3 straight events so far this year. He's on the verge of winning 7 straight 2-mans in the North American market. Astonishing. You know, I go back to Christoph Long and Gustav Vader, guys back in the 90s when the World Cup became a predominantly competitive you know, for the sport. I have never seen anybody dominate like Steve Holcomb has.
The Russians are going to kick things off at the top of the track here for the 2 men. It is early and bright here in Lake Placid. This will be driver Alexander Zubkov, and he will be pushed by Maxim Belugin.
Different brakeman than yesterday. Dmitry Chukhanov was his brakeman yesterday. You'll see a lot of switching. Looks like he had a little skid out of those start blocks right off the bat. You know, the start time he has there, 5:28 yesterday. His start times were 5:31 and 5:26, so pretty similar. Zubkov will have start times, if they're all being equal, in the teens by the time he gets to the Olympic Games. He'll only be 6, 8, 10 hundredths behind the other teams, and as a 38-year-old, he's pacing himself, in my opinion.
You did mention that he might be taking his time with things a little bit here early on in the season, but come in just a little over 50 days, we'll see what that changes to be.
He's won on this track before a couple years ago. World Championships, done very well on this track. He's done very well on this track in the whole 2000 to 2010.
And into the finish, he'll put up that time of 55.33 to start things off. We have 3 sleds that won't be starting today. That is the 15, the 24, and the 26. France, Russia, and Latvia. Kosterg and Heinrich, Zakharov and Mosiv, and Kurbanis and Zarups will not be competing.
Well, he's 1,200s faster than any of his 2 heats yesterday. In fact, 1,600's better. Similar starts. First guy off, he's got an advantage. 2 huge men. Now have to get into this bathtub type cylinder. Watch how big the guy is in the back. He's got to get down behind, and you don't want to see him the rest of the way down the track. Came out of the, looked like he came out of those little start grooves a little bit with a skid.
Back at the top, this is the German team of Floreschutz Friedrich, and his brakeman is Jonas Backer.
Yep, same 2 as yesterday, 5:23, 5:18, probably 5:20 now in his first run. Look at what Zukov just did, 5:22. Yeah, looks like the little skid coming out of the grooves. Those grooves run for about 60 meters there. And then when you come out of those grooves, you know, then the driver's got to be steering. And it's maybe those grooves are cut wrong, and they're throwing everybody to the right in a skid. Now, if I'm a coach watching the video, I'm relaying that information to my driver and brakeman now and maybe say, hey, take 1 less step and get in. Because that little wave going to that first curve, not good. That erases a lot of your start velocity.
23-year-old Floreschutz Friedrich.
Present 2-man world champion. Second Brits last year, 2013 late there. He's losing time all the way down the track to Zukov.
1700's back right now. It looks like Zukov will maintain the lead, and he will. So 1800's back is Friedrich and Bacher behind Zukov and Beluga.
Here's all the German numbers, information, their start time, their finish time, their ranking. Rennie Spiess, former World Cup pilot for Germany, very successful World Cup pilot. He World Championship medal in this track in 2003. Look at the start. Now watch them come out. Look at that. See, they're drifting to the wrong side, the left side of the screen. They want to be on the right side of the screen in the take-on. This causes, look at the back end come up. See that steering right there? If I'm a coach watching that, I'm saying, hey guys, 1 less step, get in the sled, get settled, because those start grooves are throwing everybody to the right side for them, the left side of our screen.
Good. Good. Allez, Jungs, allez, up.
Beat Hefty is our next driver on the track. Alex Baumann, and silver medalist today, and very large driver here. Big man. One of the best starters. In fact, the best starts yesterday, 5:10, 5:08. Oh, he falls! Uh-oh, this is disaster. Falls into the sled. 5:13, but the start velocity has got to be destroyed. And this is, you know, 2-man, 2 consecutive days. They don't ever run this format unless they run it at the Olympic Games or the World Championships. 2-man yesterday, 2-man today. They have 8 World Cup events on 7 venues leading into the Olympics so that they can complete the Olympic selection of all bob and skeleton teams by January 19th to satisfy IOC regulations.
Well, despite that fall getting in, the 35-year-old who's competed since the late 90s was ahead for the first 3 splits, falling off a little bit right now. 300's back. Oh, and he's fishtailing a little there.
He's going to be very angry with himself. He's not got that start mishap out of his mind. If you know his personality, this came with him all the way down the track. And I think it's more important to see what he looks like coming out of that sled. I'm sure he's going to be angry with himself. This is a very competitive athlete that's won everything as a brakeman. He's won a lot as a driver. The only thing that's eluded him so far as a driver is an Olympic medal.
All right, let's get a look at the reaction right now. Not happy. He had it at the early on splits and looked like he was gaining time.
That's that velocity.
And then he overthought it.
Look, and he's shaking his hand. Yeah. You know, he's going right to the warm-up shed. Oh, boy. Watch this. Look at the drive. Now watch his steps getting in. Watch his feet. Watch when he gets one of his feet caught, right? Oh, the push bar collapses. Oh my God. That is astonishing. He's lucky he didn't go head first onto the ice.
Goodness, and he caught his fingers in between that push
Yeah,
bar.
that's why he was shaking his right hand.
Wow. Wow.
And he's only the best pusher in the world. Justin Cripps and Brian Barnett.
Alex Ballman, Bayot's brakeman, kept the wheels pumping behind him though, but now the Canadians on the track here.
Good start. Good athletes here.
5.20.
Justin Cripps, 6 foot, 26 years old, actually born in Hawaii. Not sure how he found his way to bobsleigh.
Well, in Calgary. His parents are always watching our broadcasts in Hawaii. They're up bright and early, and probably watching them in shorts and t-shirts, not what we're wearing here. Minus 20 below zero. Ooh, that's a late ride. Ooh, that's a late ride there too through Devil's Highway into Shady. But he's got a good time here.
He's a little bit ahead. 1400's out in front of it right now. He had a 5:20 start time, second fastest. Loses a little time. 500's out in front of the lead right now.
Boy, that's good speed. That's a good line. Justin Cripps, a guy who made the transition from a brakeman to the driver in the last 3 years, and he's been coming on. Should be top 3 here.
Lost a little bit of time,
Second.
back by 900ths, and he will finish back
They like that.
1400ths and moves into that second spot. So the Canadian pairing of Cripps and Barnett find themselves behind Zukov here in Lake Placid early in our pairings.
Cripps, yesterday's brakeman, Timothy Randall. Today he gets Brian Barnett. Shows you how deep the Canadians are. Barnett, good track and field athlete, just making his way into the sport of bobsledding. Canadians got some great athletes. The Americans got great athletes. Look at this transition here, 11, 12, 13, high early. He wants to steer coming off this curve. Now watch the right side where those lines are. All the sleds will hit there, but you don't want to hit with the front like that because that pushes him over in the middle like it just did. He lost time in the bottom, and that's where he lost it. Look how cold they were.
Ooh, I can feel them with that. No question. All right, now it is Steve Hulcom and Chris Fote. They have won absolutely everything. Let's see how they do it here today in Placid. Home track, new sled, new mentality, says Steve Hulcom.
Langton on the brakes yesterday. Hulcom just flip-flops, another talented athlete in there, Chris Fote. Military sport athlete. Competed the 2010 Winter Olympic Games, finished in 8th place with John Napier, and then he went over and served his country in Iraq for 6-8 months. He's part of the world-class athlete program. Great athlete. Recently married. Hulcom, he's just doing what he's been doing for the first month of the season. A little tap there.
2,500s ahead is Hulcom. A 5:18 start time for him.
Wow, a little skid cost him a little bit. Speed, huge.
77 miles an hour for Hulcom, still out in front. 2,400s now into the final part of the track.
Hulcom is matured into maybe one of the best eyes, hands drivers that there is. He's also got the push time. Only 2,400s ahead today. Yesterday, he was 5,300s ahead at the end of the first heat. Now, I say only 24. 24 is a big amount of time.
He's just taking it easy. It's only run one. That's what he's doing.
Well, yesterday, though, he was in 5,600s. Everybody was with him in the first heat. So at least we got a half of a ball game here today.
Take a look at the replays.
Transitions, look at this. This is Devil's Highway. Look at it, get on the curve early. Gets on the curve early. He can choose where he wants to come off, but he comes off here a little bit early. I think he taps. No, absolutely perfect. Here in the chicane. Okay, this is, you want to learn how to drive a bobsled? This is pretty good until right here. Little tap there, but he doesn't try and steer away from that. He gets on that long heart curve and corrects himself. And that though reflected why he was only 2,400s ahead.
Business as usual, a 55.09, and Steve Hulcom is now in the lead. As we get set for our next American team, this is Corey Butner and Charles Berkeley.
4th place yesterday, 4th place last week in Park City, 10th place in Park City or in Calgary, the first event, and he won a medal here last year on this track in this competition. And I'm sure he's saying today, I've been knocking on the door. It's time for me to go through it and get on the podium.
Corey Butner actually used to push for now retired John Napier back in 2009. Now he is here. They are behind the count a little bit right now. 200s back, a 5:28 start time for Butner.
Devil's Highway, good line there. 2,200s down. This is good. He was fast on the bottom part of the track in the second heat yesterday. Also in one of the new BMW sleds. That's a rough ride. Still fast, 124, better speed than Hulcom. But he's got a little issue into the heart curve out of that chicane, but this is going to be a top 2 run.
200s back, 2200s back, going about 77 miles an hour here now into the finish. Let's see where he comes across.
Second.
It will be just behind Hulcom and Fote, so Buckner and Berkeley. 2300s back.
Yeah, but they're only 100th ahead of Zubkov, the wily Russian. But still, great run for Corey Buckner. That definitely gives him a chance to medal. Good lines up top, good speed. He's finding speed in the bottom. That's the best speed for the second consecutive heat. Look at these lines up top out of 3. Now watch the rudder tips here. Probably going to go over across this wall on the right. Bang. Now watch him come still the skid. No, let it. Look at that. He's bringing the sled over to the left side of our screen to get on the take-on, and here just tipped that wall on the chicane, caused him a little duress, but not bad. Second place.
Back at the start for Chris Spring and brakeman Jesse Lumsden. Jesse Lumsden recently coming away with the World Push Challenge Championship in Calgary, Alberta, an incredible event, and the Canadian is a big boy pushing hard right here. Spring, 30-year-old, 5'11". He's the 2012 Canadian National Champion as well.
Well, yesterday, 5:27 in the first run, 5:21 in the second run, and here he is, 5:18. So he got a much better start from Jesse Lumsden. Parents came down from Toronto area, where he's from.
Well, they're ahead right now by just a touch, 1/100. Let's see if they can maintain here, continuing to pick up some speed, a 5:18 start time, and now they're back at the count by 500s.
Yep, that's what he did yesterday. Good lines, but just seems to be losing time on the way down. That could be runners. 700 speed, 123, not the 124 Buckner just had. And the same type of lines Buckner just had, though. Crossover 18 to 19. It's not easy right here. Out of the 19 curve, now we go uphill.
1800s back.
Still
right
looks
now.
good. Top 3.
76 miles an hour. They will cross 2700s
Boy, it's
back
close.
in that 4th position.
3 sleds separated now by 400s. So Chris Spring puts his name in the hat as a person that wants to challenge for the medals today. Yesterday, he did not do as well, way back in 12th place, but had a better start time today.
With time separated so short, it shows you just how precise the driving has to be on this track, how technical it is.
It's look at the brakeman's head. Look how buried he is in there. Moving around, that's the G-forces. Look at that, great camera work by our Dave Jones up there.
I know Jesse Lumsden. He is not a small man, so to get that small in that tiny little bathtub is no surprise. All right, the United States back up top now. This is their 3rd sled. Nick Cunningham and Johnny Quinn.
Not telling the story about Quinn, played Canadian Football League, Texas football player. Yesterday, Cunningham won a medal with Dallas Robinson, as he did last week in Park City. Now they're switching up the brakeman. Boy, Quinn in very early. No swing for the United States sleds. That's pretty good.
5.24 push time.
You know, he didn't sway going to that first curve like we saw the first couple sleds, so that's good coaching watching the monitors to say, take one less step. Quinn was in as early as the driver that time.
Got a 5.24 push time behind the count right now. They are
way behind.
hundreds back.
Way back. He must have made a mistake up there in 2 and 3 that we didn't see. 22. He's going to have to fly. He's going to have 123.98 speed to have any chance in the bottom to get the top 3. He's bringing it back, though.
Yep,
and he's got the big speed. Best speed of the sleds. Anybody else who's come down.
77.2 miles per hour right now for Cunningham and Quinn, the Americans, still behind the count. Now 17.
Second place.
Picking up some time, though. Will they get it even more? Chasing down Hulcom and Fote. They won't quite get that, but they will, as John said, move into second. Just 1600s back. So right now, the Americans are 1, 2, and 3. Hulcom, Cunningham, and Buckner.
Boy, the speed on the bottom part of the track, all 3 sleds, and it's ironic. Hulcom's got the worst speed of the 3 sleds. And driver error for Hulcom or what? Or these sleds are flying on the bottom part of this track. Watch him come through the chicane. Everybody's tapping and getting into a skid. Cunningham, though, best speed, best lines. Look at his eyes. barely above the cowl. And you can't see the brakeman back there. He's buried. That's the best line through chicane. He's the guy with the best speed. And what a comeback on the bottom part of the track for their rodeo rider from Boise State.
Latvia next up at the top of the hill. It is Oskars Melbardis. He will be pushed and braked by Damants Dryskins.
Yesterday, he used Janis Stregner. This is his normal brakeman. And Dryskins, you know, both these guys, 6'4", 250. Look like NFL linebackers. Look at this start. Oh, no, they get in good. Good start. This is not his, he's just third-year driving. So this guy's just figuring it out. And he won the, ooh, watch out. Almost tipped over in curve 2 like the Koreans. That is not, you know, when up top, you don't try and steer. The coach says you don't steer. Get over on the right side, almost body lean yourself through the curve. And, well, on this track, you got to steer. This track, this ain't no disco out here. This is not like Park City or Calgary. This is a challenge. And that showed it right there. Boy, that was close to a crash. Good speed.
3,400s back right now, though, are the Latvians as they come into the final portion of this track. John, we'll look at it in the replay, but it's something that we talked about before. Normally, there's just very little movements on a lot of the tracks as the Latvians come across. Far back there, 4,800s. That will put them in the 8th spot as it sits right now, with the Canadians next up top. But normally it's very little movements, and he knows he made a mistake there. On a track like Placid, the steering movements are much more severe.
A little bit more violent, but up at curve 2, you don't want to steer up there. You know, you want to get over from the left, cross over from left to right. Look at this, he comes in late. He didn't steer. And now what? Boy, what's going to happen now? You know, move. This is where you got to shift your weight to the other side, bring the sled down flat. You always tell the driver or the brakeman, upper runner pressure. I don't think that huge 255-pound man knew where he was there, because he could have brought that sled back down quicker. Easy to say that sitting here.
Let's go give it a try, John.
I've been there, done that. Been there, done that.
All right, the Canadians are next up top. This is Lyndon Rush and Lascelles Brown, who, if you watched the Busch World Challenge, you saw him as well. Let's see what he's got here. 26 and 24 yesterday. Good
exit there, 520. Much better start for Lyndon Rush. Football player. Bronze medalist in the 4-man bobsled competition at the Vancouver Winter Olympics.
And a real estate agent in Sylvan Lake, Alberta. So that covers the spectrum.
Yeah, he was the big dog in Vancouver. His teammate Pierre Luders, who was the big dog for the past 15 years, did not medal, did not challenge for medals like Rush did. And then now Rush is in a position where he's got 2 athletes chasing him down. Chris Spring, Justin Cripps. Canadians, very, very strong program, very deep. And I would expect better things from these athletes when they hit the European market.
3,700s back right now are the Canadians across the line and into finish, and they will finish 5,800s back. You saw the look from the coach right there. That
very
puts them in dead last right now, the Canadian pair.
Stefan Bosch, the former junior world champion from Germany, who moved to Park City, coached the Americans, now coaching the Canadians. And this is not what the Canadians expected, especially with his start time, the 5th best start. Just no speed on these Eurotech sleds today. That might be rudder selection. You don't compete too often. Look at the skid he's got, big time. You don't compete too often in conditions like this. And in Sochi, where there's palm trees growing down in Sochi, and you go up in the mountains a little bit, and we aren't going to see this type of weather.
Well, we've got much more coming up from Lake Placid when we come back. It will be the Russian team hitting the track here in Mount Van Hoevenberg.
2-minute warning to our next competitor. 2-minute warning to our next competitor.
Well, you know, the conditions yesterday, the flags are still here. Yesterday, the flags were blowing sideways the whole day. Gusts of wind. It was a very, very different day than we have here today, other than it's a lot colder.
Talk about the snow supposed to come in tonight. They're talking about 8 inches in Lake Placid overnight.
But it's a light snow. It's a very, very cold. It's a light snow, which means it's a blowing snow, and it will affect the track. And this track's got side shades down. It's going to try and prevent as much of the snow from getting in the track. But, you know, I saw a race out here a couple years ago where there were 3 feet overnight of heavy Sierra cement, and we were convinced there'd be no race. We got out here, you know, the biggest problem they had was getting the officials to the race. The athletes were ready to go. You know, there's beautiful Whiteface Mountain, where the alpine events were held for the 1980 Winter Olympic Games. Leonard Stock won the Olympic gold medal, the Austrian. The Mayer brothers, Phil and Steve, medaled out there in slalom. And some guy named Ingemar Steinmark, I think it was. That guy who had a 10-year run in alpine skiing.
You know, you just can't ignore that here in Lake Placid when you walk around the history in this place, from the 1980 hockey team to, of course, Eric Heiden's great feat on the outdoor Olympic oval. It is definitely a nostalgic Olympic town.
Well, let's go back to 32. Jack Shea won the Olympic gold medal in 1932, and he lived all the way through the 2002, right, month before the 2002 Winter Olympic Games. So, I mean, I was born and raised in this.
Now clear from the finish to start 1. Start number 1 for Alexander Kazanov.
Back at the start in Lake Placid, Nick Gismondi alongside John Morgan, bringing you this one. Alexander Kazanov. He will be driving here as they are prepared up in the start. About midway through our first run of the 2-man bombs. Right now, the Americans have the dominance going. Hulcom, Cunningham, Butner, 1, 2, 3, John.
Don't see anybody breaking into that field, but of course, in 4, 5, 6 is right, 2 or 300s right behind him. So good challenge for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th place in the next heat. Look at that, little variance coming out of those crews. Kazanov, more of a 4-man specialist. Boy, you look at that behind you, you can see that brakeman bouncing around back there, and that's, you shouldn't see that. See that? See those shoulders bouncing around? He's a huge, huge man. He's thick, not tall. Kazanov, good driver. Good challenge for medals. He's been living in the twilight of the shadows of Zubkov. Once in a while, like yesterday, he beat Zubkov there, won a medal last week in Park City, Utah, 4-man. Beat Zubkov out of the medal. And, you know, he's quietly positioning himself for a medal in Sochi. He's got a chance.
He's behind here, though, 6,400ths back, and will finish 7,900ths back. That will put him in the 11th spot right now, behind Rush and Brown, the Canadians, who are in the 10th spot. The other Russian pairing, John mentioning Zubkov, in that 4th position, just behind the 3 American teams.
Yeah, he's just getting warmed up for the 4-man tomorrow. Take another trip down. Doesn't get the great starts. Doesn't get the best starts in 4-man, but boy, he can fly. In the 2-man, he doesn't get the good starts, but he can fly in that 4-man. Here's the lines out of the heart into 18. Good transition. Look at that. Come down out of 19 into 19 there. That's quite a transition.
Back up top, the German team, Thomas Floreschutz and Kevin Kuski. Floreschutz, 35-year-old, 6 foot. Silver at the 2010 Olympic Games. He is pushing here to see what he can't do for the Germans.
Well, Floreschutz won the silver, but Kuska was on the gold medal sled of Andre Lange, as he was on the gold medal sled in Torino, 2-man, 4-man, and also the gold medal sled at the 2002 Games. So, you know, his brakeman here, Kevin Kuska, 4 gold medals in 3 Olympics, going after a 5th. 4th best time Floreschutz had in the 2nd run yesterday. Moved up quite a bit from 10th to 6th. He's another one sleeping. 900's back though. If he gets anywhere near this 124-kilometer speed, 77-mile-an-hour speed, he's coming. 123.1, not the speed though to really move up and challenge, but he could get in there 3rd, 4th, or 5th. He holds it on the bottom here, 23. This could be close. This will be about 27, 2800s down.
Yeah,
34.
The line,
lost a lot on the bottom, not because he didn't have any speed. 6th though, he's right outside that window. If he has a good second heat like he did yesterday, he could challenge for medal.
Going about 76.5, as John said, miles per hour, 3,400s back. Puts himself right in the middle at the moment in that 6th position with just a few sleds still to come. Here's a look at that replay, John.
Transition, look at the back end of the sled in the air. This is that tough transitions up at the top of this track.
Touching clear the track. The track is now clear from the finish to start number
Here's
1.
out of the heart.
Start 1
Watch
for
this
Maximilian
18-19 position. That's 18-19, that transition there, boy, we've seen a lot of action down there over the years. Looks like the drivers have got it pretty well figured out.
Maximilian Arndt is driving Martin Bobsleigh, who will be the brakeman here, the 26-year-old 5'11" world champs. Had a bronze back in 2012, and the Germans are up and out of the gate. A 5:32 start for them.
Another one of them guys using 2-man to warm up for 4-man. World champion in 4-man bobsled. Young, him and Francisco Friedrich, we could see these guys for 2 or 3 Olympics. But the Germans produce bobsled drivers. They know how to put them out. So the thing is, there's no, their attitude is the silver medal is the first loser. This is what they all go in there with. And, that's the mentality why this country's been so successful over the years.
2,500s back.
Good
now.
speed, good speed. He is a speed merchant on the bottom part of these tracks. He's got some of the best eyes and hands of anybody. Still at 25, he's probably going to slip to 30.
Going about 77 miles
26,
an hour.
not bad. Considering that start time, if he had a start time that Hulcom did, look at this. Hulcom beat him by 2,200s at the start and only 2,600s at the bottom. That means this guy drove the best sled.
A 55.35 puts them in that 5th position. So with that being said, what changes for them in run 2?
He just does the same thing. He's just fantastic on the bottom part of the track. But he's got to hit a home run every time like this. Here's the 4th best speed behind the 3 American sleds. Barely taps through. That's as clean as it gets. And that's why he's the world champion in 4-man bobs. This guy got some great eyes and hands, and he's young. Hey, Max.
The track is now clear from the finish to start 1.
So back up at the top. This is Won Yoon-young and Seao Young-woo from Korea.
Yeah, they had a little problem yesterday in curve 2 and tipped over, and his brakeman Seao jumped out of the sled or ejected out of the sled before curve 4, and then the sled came back on its side about curve 8, came back up, and here they are back for some revenge.
Get the revenge. The Koreans or the track?
Well, my day it was the man against the mountain in bobsledding. You get that on the bottom and you go, wow, I made it down. Oh, that's a bad skid. That's a bad turn. Now here comes this mistake. And see him, how much he turns this time. Yeah, he got in that curve and he turned hard that time. But, yeah, look, they're right back out here today. Fall off the horse, you get right back on it. My day, it was man against the mountain. You got to that bottom of the track and whew, I made it down. Oh, by the way, what was my time? A lot of the tracks in Park City and Calgary, the guys get across the finish line, they're turning and looking at their times on the big scoreboards. There's no fear factor with tracks. On this track, there's a fear factor. The athletes come out here, they have a little bit more respect for this competition. Ooh, and this is not a good line. Watch out here at 18-19. He gets through it. Good job, the Koreans, who are building their program through 2018, and very impressive yesterday with the other Korean team who finished 15th.
Well, came in a little bit wonky through a few of those turns, and they will finish down in the 14th spot. 14 of 14. They were just over a second back. But
I got to take a hit. I was the wrong Korean team that tipped over. These guys finished 15th yesterday, so a little apology to Young Wong for great drive down the track.
The track is now clear
Positions
from the finish
in.
to start 1.
14th at the moment.
Look at that, 10th best start. That's what you're looking at for this developing nation. 10th best start. All the rest of the stuff will come. The Koreans are building a great program, and you know how good the Koreans are in golf. If they pay attention the way they did in golf to bobsled, they're going to be a threat by the time we get to 2018 in Pyeongchang.
All right, so that French pairing of Loic Kosterg and Heinrich did not start, so we move ahead to pairing number 16. This is Simone Bertazzo and Francesco Costa from Italy on course now.
Yeah, we saw the French last night at the restaurant. They said, no, we aren't coming out today. We didn't qualify. They didn't qualify 20th, but they figured they'd do 20th again. They have enough points from the North American Tour, you know, and they didn't think they'd move up much today, so they're saving everything for their four-man run tomorrow.
Simone Bertazzo has been competing since 2001, 31-year-old with a bronze in the 2007 World Champs.
He's won a couple World Cup events on his home track at Cazanov. His father, Joey Bertazzo, competed for Italy on the old track across the way at the 1983 World Bobsleigh Championships. Good friendship with him over the years.
4,500s back, though, is Bertazzo. 6,200s now into the finish. Finishes 7,800s back. Bertazzo is in 13th right now. So, well, it is pretty safe up at the top for the moment. It is Hulcom, Cunningham, and Butner as your leaders right now. The rest of this field will just try to make their way into that second heat. Looking down at the field that remains, John Morgan, anybody have a chance at that top spot?
None. But you know, now it's the race within a race. The athletes that are trying to best their Olympic qualifying standards that their Olympic Association sets up. The Dutch coming up, the two Dutch sleds, they have to get top 10s, two top 8s, I think, at two-man bob, and one top, I'm not sure, but so here's one of the first Dutch sleds. He's got to get two top 8s, 16th in the World Cup. He has not achieved anything like that so far.
This is Ivo de Bruin and the brakeman.
Two top 8s, Martin.
Ziege.
Yeah, it is confirmed. We have Dutch producer directors in the truck that have all this information.
The Dutch do like the ice. Normally a long track speed skating country. You can't mistake that orange when they are on the speed skating track. See how they do here on a slightly more downward grade than a speed skating track.
Pretty good recreational skating going on that canal, and those canals when there's enough ice in those canals. I think Ivo needs to clean up a couple of lines there. It's soft up there, curve 3 and 4 with some touches. Now Devil's Highway. Watch him come out of shady here, wants to be straight. Ooh, late off that curve. Didn't alter too much. Late there. 36, this isn't too bad. Speed though, 3 kilometers down to the best sleds. He's gonna fall.
75 miles per hour here for the Dutch. See where they come across. He is 6,100s back now into the final stretch of this difficult track, and the Dutch cross in the 15th spot. 8,500s back of the lead set by Holt.
Well, he's a little bit better than yesterday. Yesterday he was 16th and 20th in both heats. So today he's got a chance to stay at 15 and, you know, maybe move up a few more. But again, he needs 2 top 8 finishes
And
to have a chance.
Here's
out of shady.
Glad you could join us here.
Flops those runners, and that's just energy comes across left to right. Now into the labyrinth.
The track is now clear from the finish.
11-12 combination.
Start number
Look at
1
this.
for Dong Young.
Bang.
Juggling.
Violent hits, taps going into the next curve. He's in the middle of the next curve. He's got to do big steering.
Look again at your current rank. Hulcom in the lead. Cunningham and Butner are your 1, 2, and 3. It falls off a little bit from there, but a good run, and the Americans continue to keep the train rolling as we go back up to the top now for our 18th pairing. This is the Korean team of Kim Dong-yoon and Yoon Young-jin.
Well, they crashed yesterday. Mistakenly said that. I think our internet says the same thing. We had the wrong Korean team here. They crashed. Now his mistake, good start. Look at that, 10th best start. Now his mistake comes up right here. He taps, look, he's gonna get this. He's trying to get over that right-hand wall. Look at the steering he did there. And that's, you know, okay, he's through that albatross. I have great respect for these Koreans, the way they have built this team. You saw these kids 4 years ago come out of the FIBT driver schools. And there was 18, 19-year-old kids, weighed about 150 130 pounds. Now they're 22, 23-year-old kids all weighing 165, 170, or I say closer to 190. They built themselves up. They got 10th best start times, which a lot of the top sleds don't have that. This is a much better run down the track than he had yesterday.
7,900's back, but they will finish the race this time. They finished just over a second behind the lead. They're in 16th.
100th better than their teammate. I bet you he feels good about finishing today.
Little sigh of relief across the line.
Yeah, good job, man. Now the question is, can they qualify in the top 20? And I think we got a couple sleds coming up. Look at the mistake there on it. You know, that's a lot of time he wasted up there. This guy's pretty good, though, considering all the mistakes he made up top. Crashed yesterday, and it's a good run.
Romania next up at the top. This is Nicolae Istrate and Floreschutz.
Martin, the highlights of the first run, you should have Hefty following at the start. Just a tip.
All right, good push here for the Romanians.
21st.
5.39 push.
Not competitive.
5.39, not what they're looking for. That is the slowest we have seen.
Strade has been at least 3 Olympics. They do so much with so little. They're out here all the time. Every once in a while, all of a sudden they're top 10 at the World Championships in Cunningham in 2011. Very joyous moment for that whole program. That's pretty good driving there. He's got good eyes and hands. Probably has the oldest sled in the field. It's an old DSD Dresden that used to be an old East German aircraft manufacturer that built sleds for the East German program in the 70s and 80s. And then when the wall came down, they started selling them to everybody. But that's an old sled.
1.24 behind the pace. They will sit in last at the moment, 18th for the Romanians.
2 Koreans that beat him, a brand new Eurotech sled. You put this guy in the Eurotech sled, he's up in the top 12, 13. Even with that deficient start time, he can drive. Look at the chicane. Can you see the driver, the rider behind him? Look at the brakeman. You can see the movement of the head back there and the shoulders, and that's bad air. It's with the air exiting the sled back there. And there's a lot more dirty air coming out of the back of that sled than there is on the sleds that are clean.
The Swiss now back at the top. It is Gregor Baumann and Fabio Beltran.
He's been struggling, this European or this North American part of the tour. Had to take off last year, didn't qualify for the Swiss program, was injured.
5.27 push time.
Took the year off, year before. He had a lot of crashes.
Oh, and he's down again early on, and they are on their side.
Same curve too. That's what the sled might come back up. Right here, coming up. The next curve could come back up right here. Coming up. Stay in there. Stay in there. No, there's the brakeman out. There. That's if the brakeman stayed in the sled, it's going to come back up in that spot.
So Fabio Beltran is out of the sled, and now Gregor Baumann was back up, and now he is over again, and he's just going to have to hang on. Wow, they were inverted there for a second.
They just don't like to steer through that curve too. And this track says, don't fool with me. Now watch the track crew. Got to get in here, catch the sled. It's going to go all the way uphill and come backwards. Watch this. They got to catch it. It comes up here. They're very experienced crew here. It's very tricky right here. So somebody's got to jump in and catch this. Look at them. See? Because they know if this sled's going to get to an apex, it's going to come straight back. What a job. Because then the sled would have gone back 200 yards like the thing behind it. Look at that thing go back downhill. And, I mean, this is a great job by Tony Carlino's track crew. They're experienced here. Because the athlete then would have panicked going backwards. You can get more hurt going backwards than you can forward. But look at the driver. He's fine. But you know what? The adrenaline's flowing. Someone should go grab him. Medic's got to get to him right away because, you know, he's concussed. He doesn't know. Look at this.
Let's take a look at how it went wrong.
Wrong side of the curve. Look, he's coming to the middle of the curve.
And there'll be a slight
He got on the
delay
wrong
while we
side of that
prepare.
straightaway. The
So
same
please,
thing the Korean did
a
yesterday.
Slight delay while we get set.
You know, they're just looking ahead to the curve 6 and 7 and 8. They aren't thinking about curve 2. Now the brakeman's in there going, what should I do? What should if you know what goes on in this track, the sled comes back up. Not here, but he decides, I'm out of here. Right about here. He says, I'm out of here. See ya. Now watch the next 2 curves. It comes up, he's out, he's sliding, getting ice burns right there on his beehive. Now watch this, bang, that's where they come back up. Now whether or not it comes back up with his brakeman in it or not, but that's 2 consecutive days we've seen that. And look at this, he's driving a weightless sled, so on the outlet here, he's going down, then he's got to come back up, he's over again. So tough day for Gregor Bauman, and the most important thing about it, he crashed last weekend, or 2 weeks ago in Calgary in 4-man bob, but finished through the electric eyes, and he got all his points because it was in the second run. But here, he goes to DSQ, and he won't get any points for this race.
John, take me through the anatomy of a crash. We broke down how it happened. What is going on in the sled, in the minds, to the body in a situation like this?
Well, first of all, the loud echo that is in that sled. I mean, the violence that the athletes are encountering is that, then it's a mind over matter. It's mental toughness. You cannot prepare yourself to crash. The coaches will tell you, stay in the sled, protect yourself, and just stay in there. In this type of situation, in a little bit of a cocoon that they are in, they might get an ice burn on their shoulder. But when they start trying to get in and out of that sled, their feet can get caught. It's very dangerous. But, there's Ivo Rug, the world champion here in 2009 from Switzerland, 2-man bobsled. World championship in 4-man bobsled in 2007 in St. Moritz. Rug, a famous sliding family. His uncles competed at the 1980 Games here in Lake Placid and medaled. Switzerland, a very small country with great pride in their sport. And you don't see Swiss bobsledders tip over too often.
So a tough one there for the Swiss, but Gregor Bauman was up and walking. We'll keep you updated on him. Seems to be fine. His brakeman pulled the chute early on. Fabio Badron got out, went for a little bit of a ride on his own. The Swiss crash out here in Lake Placid. It is a tough technical track, John.
The sled comes up now. There's a loading dock down below. They'll get it out, but we'll give you a little view of the track.
Yeah, let's take another look at just how technical and how tough this track is.
And if they dare freeze it right out of curve 1 and the straightaway to curve 2, I'll show you where all these mishaps are. Here he is going down. This is, you settle, get out of these drive lines. People are having problems here in curve 1. But the problem that the Korean made yesterday and the Swiss made just now, they're on the wrong side. They're on the left side, and they come into the middle of the curve and they tip over right there.
This is Cliffside, named in honor of the original Cliffside curve because the track was located on a cliff. And it's into Whiteface.
That Whiteface was the extension of the old 1.5 mile track from the 32 Games to the mile section right above where we're starting now.
Devil's Highway. Curves 5 through 7, followed by a couple successive curves, 8 and 9.
Shady slingshot effect onto the bottom, and then I love this Stan Benham. 2 silver medals for Lake Placid at the 52 Winter Olympic Games and 2 in 4-man bobsled. Chicane, well, you know what that is from auto racing. It's a little bit of a twisty straightaway.
2 small rolling curves.
A lot of G's going uphill here. You can lose some time, finish. This is no disco. Love coming out here. Last week in Park City in Calgary, the athletes top of the track were warming up pretty free with each other. How you doing? Where you going? How's your family? How's your kids? Here in Lake Placid, top of the track, they're warming up. It's a lot more quiet. And you see why.
9.8% grade, 20 turns for the bobsledders. They had a max G-force of 5.1 and a max speed in the area of 130 kilometers an hour. Track hold right now after the Swiss have gone down. So Gregor Bauman and Fabio Badron have caused a bit of a track hold here after they crashed today. It was Koreans who crashed yesterday, and we'll get one more look at it here.
Wrong side. Comes into the middle of the curve, and that's just what happens. And he was worse than he was quickly over. So he made the mistake, curve 1 to 2, just was just not thinking anything of it and came on the wrong side. Then he didn't steer coming into the curve, and then the lights go out. This is some hellacious ride. You can't practice for this, nor would you. There's the brakeman getting out, but he's going to get all sorts of ice burns over the bottom part of his, his butt and his rear end. And, that's, if you stay in the sled, your only thing's going to get an ice burn is your shoulder.
If he doesn't bail out, if he doesn't pull the ejection handle right there and he stays in the sled when it comes back upright, do they finish this run?
Yes, they get across the finish line. Yeah, and then he'd have an entitlement to go back up. Most likely would not make the top 20. But, Mr. Baumann here has just had a rough couple of years since the 2010 games. Good pilot, too. He's had his moments. And, sometimes it's like quarterbacks get in a rut. Baseball players can't hit softball. Golfers, 3-putt everything. Athletes get into ruts. And, and here in bobsledding, that little fear factor that, there's such a minute room for error.
It's a balance of not only physical prowess, but that mental toughness when you take on a track like this, John.
Well, there's a different mindset for sure. Different mindset for sure.
Let's take a look back at Steve Hulcom, who is your leader, with brakeman Chris Vogt, a 55.09 and a great run for Steve here as he continues to just be dominant on the ice.
He's got the great driving skills. He's got the equipment in a brand new BMW sled. Got runners that the U.S. team's had in possession for a long time. Brakeman, you can see a little bit of him back there, not much. Chris Vogt knows how to get in there on an aerodynamic profile.
2-minute warning to Layman Dean.
Holcomb
Once again,
just
2-minute warning to Layman
only
Dean.
2,400ths ahead. Boy, any time in your career, you'd love to be 2,400ths ahead. Yesterday, he was 5,300ths ahead. Four-man last week, he won by 3,500ths in the final heat. After 3 sleds were tied in the first run, Holcomb won the second run by 3,500ths of a second. So he is on some roll in the sport of bobsledding. It's time to 100th, and 3,500ths, 2,500ths, that's a lot of time.
Whiteface Mountain here in Lake Placid, New York. You get a look at the current rank right now as we stand through about 20 sliders. Holcomb and Vogt are out in front. The Americans, Cunningham and Quinn, in the second position, and Butner and Berkeley with a nice run as well. And then it gets a little bit close. The Russians all in there as well. That is Zubkov and Belugin. Germans in it as well, Arndt and Putzi, setting up for a very interesting second heat. But really, is there any beating Steve Holcomb?
The only person who's going to beat Steve Holcomb is Steve Holcomb. So there's the parking lot. When you see that parking lot start to fill up, I used to come out here as a kid, be 8,000 people for a weekend race. Go back before there was a lot of sports on TV, and people drive in from hours away to watch just normal U.S. national bobsled races.
It is an incredible sport, and I'll tell you, it is something to see live. Just an absolute display of power and technique with that little bit of hint of danger. These guys are not for the faint of heart. This is a ride. This is an absolute jarring experience for 58 seconds that you just got to kind of hang on for. All right, the track hold has been lifted. We're back at the top, and this is the team from Great Britain. This is Lamont Dean and Toby Olubi. Dean, 32 years old. Member of the British Army, also plays basketball, football, and rugby. He is no stranger to being tough.
Made a transition from brakeman. There's that run too far. He had to make a quick adjustment. Curve one, he got out of the drive lines. Did not make the cut yesterday. 26th place. So he's just learning how to drive. Ooh, hit that takeout to curve 3, threw him in the belly of it, and then he had to double steer to get out. These are little minute mistakes that, you learn how to quietly steer yourself down a normal track. Here it's a different fear factor.
Slow push time for them, 18th out of 18, 5:38.
Yeah, sucked up there in the top one. 12. Good lines there. A little low here. Watch out if he gets off this curve late. Perfect, good transition. Boy, that's easy down there in 18, 19. You've seen that beat up some of the best in the world down there in certain years.
Finishes about over a second and a half back of the leaders, so the team from Great Britain will sit in the 19th spot.
Looking like that both Korean sleds got a good chance to qualify here.
Currently sitting in 18th and 17th respectively, the sleds of Kim and Won.
1-2 sleds. I see the Koreans are going to qualify at least one sled, if not two.
6 sleds left to come. The Russian sled in the 24th spot not starting, and the Latvian sled that was slated in the 26th spot also not starting. Back at top now, this is the Japanese team of Hiroshi Suzuki and Shintaro Sato.
Brand new sled designed by a tech company in Japan. Suzuki, 4-time Olympic driver for his native Japan. He starts not off the block, he starts on the ice, which is the old traditional way. The new drivers start in the back off the block and they explode up to that. Ooh, look at that back end of that sled. He might have got too far in those push lines.
Suzuki's competed since '92, 4-time winner Olympian. His best finish was 18th back in 1994. That was all the way back in Lillehammer.
I think Suzuki out of Japan would be driving a Suzuki sled.
Ew.
Always smiling, very gracious. Didn't see him last year. Maybe one race we saw, maybe the Worlds or something else. Japanese, always been sliding. He hosted the Winter Olympic Games twice. Once in Sapporo in 1972, natural track, and then track in 1998 built in Nagano.
Just over a second back right now. He'll finish 1.23 back of the lead, but that will move him into the 18th spot.
And he's behind the two Korean sleds. Let me tell you, there's a little competitive instinct between the Koreans and the Japanese.
Absolutely.
And the Koreans are just coming into the sport. This guy's been around for almost 20 years, and these two young Korean kids, the thing about them is Suzuki, his start time, 5:47, the 21st ranked start time. The two Korean sleds, 10th and 12th at the start. That's why the Koreans are going to continue to improve. They've got good athletes in that program for Korea. And this is that, look at that back end skid. This is that race within a race I talk about. Countries against countries.
Back at the top. Back at the top, excuse me. Heath Spence and Duncan Harvey from Australia. Heath Spence, 33-year-old, born in Melbourne, resides in Calgary. No surprise there. That's where he does a lot of his training.
Much better start times than he used to get. But he's the guy you got to watch out here in Curve 2. Now, good line, he got in there, but this is where he made a big mistake yesterday at 3. Got through there, good. Didn't make the cut yesterday.
Spence trying to pilot at his first Olympic Games. He's been competing since 2008. His first podium came back in 2010, a second place finish at the World Cup stop in Park City.
No, that was the America's Cup, which is the B Tour. He's fighting all he can do here, no speed. He's trying to get in that top 20. Not bad lines this year for Heath.
7600s back is Heath Spence right now, and his brakeman Duncan Harvey.
1 second, 20th.
In the 20th spot right now.
Right on the bubble. 1600s behind the Romanians, but he's got two formidable opponents coming up. And John Jackson from Great Britain and Edwin van Cocker from the Netherlands.
You mentioned the Koreans before. They were in the 16th and 17th spot right now, respectfully as well. And Suzuki from Japan is currently sitting at 18. Romania is on the bubble. Estrade and Crăciun. We'll see where they end up.
Heath Spence. A couple more guys here with the pressure of Olympic qualifying on their shoulders.
This is the Dutch, Edwin van Kalker and Sybren Jansma.
17th place yesterday, 21 to 23 start. 25 this time, not a bad start.
Time 5-2-5.
Kalker, 34 years old. He's 14th after 2000. 2010 games in Vancouver.
Did not compete in the 4-man there. Pulled out. Safety concerns. Any doubts about the track shouldn't be coming down. There's no gray area in the sport. You better have your focus on against any bobsled track on the planet, especially ones like this. A lot of steering there in the back end of that sled. Lots of steering. Speed, 3 kilometers down to the best teams.
$6,600s back across the finish, and they will finish 9,100s back. So they do move themselves into that 16th spot, and that
puts the Romanians on the bubble with about 1 more sled, maybe 2 that could challenge for that spot.
So right now, out of the mix are the Australians of Spence and Harvey, as well as Dean from Great Britain. Here's another look at their run.
Attention to clear the track. The track is now clear from the finish to start 1. Start number 1 for John James Jackson and Craig Pickering.
So the Latvians not starting. That's Oskars Kriburmanis and Revis Zirops. They will not be competing, so we will go now to the next great British team. That is John James Jackson and Craig Pickering. Jackson, 36 years old, 6 foot, Royal Marine Commando corporal there. He's now a sergeant with the all-arms physical training instructor branch. Started sliding in 2006, and
5:37 the start time. 5:37 push for Great Britain.
His driving debut back in 2007. Out of the gate here at 5:37 push time for them. That is 20th right now. Behind in the count, they are 1900s back, now 4600s back.
This is a guy who qualified in the top 20 for sure. He crashed in 4-man practice early in the week. He needs the guy limping around with torn Achilles in July. Great lines, almost 122 kilometers. Jackson's driving skills improving every time we see him. 19th, that pushes the Romanians out, puts Suzuki on the bubble. Kupchak and 2 more guys to come down here. I think both of them are going to have all they can do to get in that top 20.
Yeah, so you've got David Kupchak from Poland and Jan Verba from the Czech Republic still to come.
Look at this, how the anguish of getting him out of the sled with that torn Achilles in July. It's superhuman effort for John Jackson to be out here doing what he's doing. Look at him limp. Oh, it's painful.
Well, like I said, the former corporal in the Royal Marine Commandos, he's no stranger to hard work.
Look at him limp.
He's a tough guy right there. Tough guy. All right, back up at the top. David Kupchak from Poland. His brakeman will be Daniel Zawolski.
He crashed twice in practice in 4-man, so I still don't know if he qualified for 4-man. You have to have 2 successful trips in 2-man and 4-man. Check in and down, very experienced pilot. Just very, very crashed in 4-man also in Calgary in the race. You got somebody with this much experience, like Baumann, who just crashed, the Swiss pilot. You start to shake your head, you know? Guys with that much experience find a way not to go on their heads.
5:48 push for them, slowest we've seen back, 7,700s right now at that 3rd split time.
Good transition there. Speed's pretty good.
Losing a little
Great
bit of
line.
time.
Look at those lines.
76 miles an hour going 8,700s back in the time right now. So with good lines and a decent speed, can he pick up some time at the bottom?
He has a chance here to get in the top 20. It's a remote. 1 second.
So he will just be off the pace, and that changes the landscape.
10 hundredths away. And he got beat by the Japanese at the same start time he did, 100 better. So good lines in the bottom part of the track, but David just didn't have it going.
All right, so there is one sled left to come. This will be the sled from the Czech Republic, Jan Verba and Michael Vashik.
Good lines here. This is as clean as anybody coming through this part of the track. David. Czech Republic team.
Hulcom, Cunningham, Buckner, the Americans. They are your 1, 2, 3 right now through heat number 1. Let's see if this Czech team can find their way into that top 20 and get themselves a second ride down this difficult track here in Lake Placid. Check out their push time here. They are in and underway. Coming in at 5:32, John.
Yeah, that's not going to help. 28 yesterday. Look at this sled. I talked about it yesterday. Look at the right side of his sled, and he almost tipped over. Look at the right side of the sled. Look at that cowling. He's got a loose sled in there. It's the push bar. There's definitely a lot of air coming in. You see it, the sled in the straightaway. Just check out the right side of that cowling. See that push bar? Separation. We'll see it good here in the chicane. Right here. Look at the right side.
A lot of shaking.
See that? See that? That vibration, there's air going in and out of there. Go watch this on YouTube. All this stuff's on YouTube. Go watch it and figure things out.
Well, they will not crack the top 24. However, the two Koreans find their way in. Kim and Won finished in the 17th and 18th spot, so they will get themselves another ride. And Suzuki finds a way in for Japan as well. Not making it on will be the Romanians, Poland, Australia, as well as the Czechs.
Look at that cowling. Look at that. Look at that. That's the push bar or the cowling, both. That's not good. That's air, you know. And what did he miss by? 82. He missed the top 20 by 40 hundredths. So, you know, that's 20 hundredths there playing around.
And let's take a look back at our leader coming into the second round. It will be the ride of Steve Hulcom, pushed today by Chris Fogt, a 55.09, and a nice run for these two. He won with Langton yesterday, and he is on pace to do it again here, John, with Fogt.
Great lines, great equipment, home track. Boy, has he been on some roll. On the verge of winning his 7th straight two-man event in the North American market over the past 3 seasons. Pretty astonishing.
An incredible run for Steve Hulcom, who just continues to get better with time. U.S. veteran right there, knows he had a good one. He will be all set for an impressive second run here in Lake Placid later on today. Those are your current ranks. The Americans go 1, 2, and 3. That is Hulcom and Fogt, Cunningham and Quinn, and Buckner and Berkeley. The U.S. goes 1, 2, 3. Russia in the mix as well. The Germans in there. And don't count out the Canadians. Spring with the nice push from the World Push Challenge champ, Jesse Lumsden. Canadians have a shot at making a go of it here in North America as well. So the first run is complete for the two men, Bob, and it is the Americans who show their dominance on the home track. A couple of close calls, a few crashes. It was a difficult day for the Swiss as Bowman and Vadran went down and bailed out. But the Americans showed why this is their track. Steve Hulcom leads the way for the U.S., and the American teammates follow in suit. The second run will be coming up later today, and we've also got the women's run 1 and 2. For John Morgan, I'm Nick Gismondi, saying so long from Placid.